In what appears to be a dystopian future, a large community lives within the silo, a massive underground structure spanning 144 levels. Sheriff Holston Becker begins his day with a cup of coffee before unexpectedly locking himself in a cell, leaving his colleague, Chief Deputy Sam Mars, bewildered. To Sam's shock, Holston declares his intention to go outside, a statement that, once spoken, cannot be taken back. In a world where the surface is considered deadly and unlivable, such words are regarded as a death sentence. 3 years earlier, Holston and Allison were thrilled when the silo's authorities approved their request to have a child. During breakfast, fertility consultant Gloria Hildenbrandt approaches them, but they ignore her. As time passes, their attempts to conceive prove unsuccessful. One day, repair shop owner George Wilkins reaches out to Allison for help with an encrypted drive. When she investigates, they realize the drive is untraceable and predates the silo's rebellion. The rebellion remains an enigma, with silo residents being told that it occurred 140 years ago and led to the complete destruction of all records, including files, drives, and books. On Freedom Day, a holiday marking the rebellion's end, they finally succeed in unlocking the drive's contents. To their shock, the footage reveals an outside world vastly different from the bleak and desolate scenes constantly displayed on the silo's screens. While speaking with Gloria, Allison learns that her birth control device was never removed, deliberately preventing her from conceiving. Determined to take control, she removes it herself. Weak and bleeding, she makes her way to the cafeteria, determined to reveal the truth to everyone. Allison further exposes that the screens display altered footage and asserts her right to go outside, a request that, by silo law, must be honored. According to tradition, those allowed to leave are tasked with cleaning the outer camera, wiping away the grime to ensure a clear view of the outside world. Before leaving, Allison shares her theory with Holston, that those who went outside before likely cleaned the camera to reveal the truth. The world beyond the silo is livable. She promises that if the outside is truly habitable, she will clean the camera, but if it's not, she will simply wave as proof. Stepping beyond the silo, she wipes the camera lens but soon collapses and dies. 2 years later, Holston is still trapped in loneliness and despair until he hears about George's suspected suicide and encounters Juliet Nichols. An engineer, Juliet believes that George was murdered. Returning to the present, Holston confides in Deputy Mars about his plan to find his wife, despite her apparent death on the screen. Venturing outside, he discovers the world is alive, as Allison had claimed. However, removing his helmet causes him to choke and collapse beside his wife's body. Witnessing this, Juliet becomes enraged, accusing Holston of lying. Tensions rise within the silo as signs of unrest begin to surface. In response, Judicial, one of the 2 law enforcement bodies in the silo, alongside the sheriff's office, dispatches agents led by Head of Security Robert Sims to manage the growing turmoil. With Sheriff Holston no longer in the role, Mayor Ruth Johns and Deputy Mars begin discussing possible candidates to fill the now empty position. Earlier, it is revealed that Juliet and George had been involved in a secret romantic relationship. One day, George attempts to meet Juliet to reveal something important, but he never arrives. The following day, Juliet is heartbroken to discover he has died, and she becomes convinced his death was no accident. His body is found at the base of a staircase, having fallen from a great height, leaving her certain that something sinister was at play. Holston and Deputy Mars question Juliet about her conviction that George was murdered. In return for Holston's promise to keep the details private, Juliet discloses that George left behind a candy dispenser and a note containing the words, "Remember where you were the last time you saw this? I found what I was looking for." Curious, Holston accompanies Juliet to a hidden underground room beneath the silo. housing a massive digging machine, likely used to construct the silo. The pair then travel to George's makeshift camp, where Juliet finds a backpack containing hard drives and a manual on how to access them. Recognizing Allison's handwriting in the manual, Holston advises Juliet to stay hidden while he looks into the matter further. He promises to contact her if he uncovers anything significant. Deputy Mars shares Sheriff Holston's final request with the mayor, recommending Juliet as his successor. Meanwhile, Juliet lowers herself deeper into the hidden chamber with a rope, hoping to find the clues George mentioned. Instead, she encounters a vast, endless stretch of water. Episode 3. Juliet then returns to the surface, her search proving fruitless. She drowns her sorrow in alcohol and wakes up with a hangover. Suddenly, she senses a rumble and hurries down to the mechanical floor, where she works to inspect the generator that powers the entire silo. Meanwhile, the mayor and Deputy Mars descend the silo to meet with Juliet. Along the way, they find themselves on the judicial floor but decide to bypass it due to their strained relationship with the organization. Instead, they encounter Bernard Holland, the head of IT, who reminds them of the urgency of finding a new sheriff. Seeking information about Juliet, the mayor approaches Juliet's estranged father, Pete Nichols, and her close colleague and friend, Martha Walker, both of whom speak highly of her. During their break, the mayor and Deputy Mars are interrupted by Sims, who suggests a man named Paul Billings, a member of the judicial branch, as a potential sheriff candidate. However, the mayor quickly dismisses the idea. Continuing her voyage, the mayor finally meets with Juliet and offers her the sheriff's position, presenting her with Holston's badge, which he intended for her to have. Before accepting, Juliet sets a condition. She must be permitted to repair the severely damaged generator, a task that would result in an 8-hour power outage throughout the entire silo. However, with the repair comes the risk of losing the generator and its power forever. The mayor agrees, and Juliet, accompanied by her colleagues, sets to work. The task is perilous, involving the repair of a damaged fan blade. After a grueling and intense session that could have resulted in fatal consequences for some, they successfully restore the generator, thanks to Juliet and Cooper's diligent efforts. Cooper, her shadow, is a mentee who will eventually succeed his mentor. With the repairs completed, Juliet prepares to assume the role of sheriff. As she examines Holston's badge, she notices a word carved into the back: truth. While celebrating the success of the generator repairs, the mayor and Deputy Mars, who have feelings for each other, prepare to spend the evening together. However, Mayor Ruth suddenly collapses, convulsing and bleeding from her mouth, with Deputy Mars standing helplessly over her. A devastated Mars mourns the death of Mayor Ruth. He discusses the situation with Bernard and Sims, suspecting that rat poison was used to kill her, as it cannot be traced in the body. Even more suspicious is the fact that the mayor drank from Mars's bottle, suggesting it was likely poisoned. With Ruth's assassination in mind, Bernard, now acting mayor, calls Juliet in and informs her that he will shortly swear her in as sheriff. Sandy, the sheriff's office assistant, shows a slight bias toward Juliet as she walks to her desk. Due to Sandy's condescending attitude, Juliet is unable to access the secure files and the weapon storage area until after she is officially sworn in. When Juliet later asks for George's file, Sandy tells her that it is the only file they don't have. In a flashback to Juliet's childhood, she is seen throwing away her mother's and brother's belongings after their passing. Now left alone with her father, their relationship becomes strained, especially after an argument. Interested in mechanics, she decides to go to the lower levels of mechanical, where she meets Martha for the first time and stays with her for a while. She works hard under Martha's mentorship, but soon her father shows up, wanting her to come back home. When Juliet tells him she's happy in mechanical, her father, wanting what's best for her, allows her to stay. In the present, Bernard swears Juliet in as sheriff. and Sandy hands her a file that Holston intended for her to have. Before she can look at it, she rushes to stop Deputy Mars, who has gotten into a scuffle with a man named Frankie, whom he suspects of poisoning the mayor, given his history with similar substances. After the incident, Juliet and Mars have a conversation in which she shares her experiences with Holston and reveals that the word truth is engraved on Holston's sheriff badge. Striking a deal with Mars, she promises to help him find out who killed the mayor if he helps her uncover what happened to George. Together, they set out to look for answers and head to Doris Kennedy's house, only to learn from her husband Patrick that Doris has been dead for a year. Back in her office, Juliet hears a rattling noise coming from the vents and investigates it. In the vent, she discovers George's file stuffed inside a bag, probably put there by Holston. Meanwhile, an intoxicated Deputy Mars is attacked in his own home. He loses the fight and is held at gunpoint by an unnamed man, with his attacker showing no mercy. Deputy Mars is later found dead in his room. Sims quickly announces that Paul Billings will replace Mars. Needing to spin a story around the recent murders, Bernard advises that they bury both the mayor and Mars in the same grave and fabricate a story about how they were forbidden to be together as a way to explain their sudden deaths. In the sheriff's office, Sandy offers Juliet a deal. If Juliet helps uncover Mars's murderer, she will help her find out what happened to George. She also warns Juliet that someone will soon be framed for the murder because Judge Meadows, the head of Judicial, doesn't care about the truth but simply wants to maintain order and prevent a rebellion. Sometime later, Juliet breaks into Patrick Kennedy's home. There, she finds framed evidence, including Mars's artwork and rat poison, proving that he is the one who will be framed for the murders. She quickly hides Patrick away so nobody can charge him with anything. When Billings visits Sims to seemingly rat on Juliet, the man who killed Mars is sitting in Sims' office. Sims introduces him as Doug Trumbull, his potential shadow. After his visit to Judicial, Billings informs Juliet that they are attempting to get rid of her by giving her the wrong suspect in order to show everyone how incompetent she is. While Judicial moves to arrest the framed Patrick due to the planted evidence, Juliet, being one step ahead, awaits them in front of Patrick's home. When Doug shows up to get to Patrick, she accuses him of setting up the scene. Compromised, Doug flees, with Juliet chasing him. However, Doug manages to escape after almost killing Juliet. Later that night, Doug is confronted by Sims about his failures. Having lost faith in him, Sims throws him over the railing, killing him for his mistakes and tying up loose ends. The following day, Juliet discusses Doug with Judge Meadows, but the judge doesn't want her to spend more time on him since he's dead, and they have already found the killer of the mayor and Mars. Back at her desk, she learns that Sandy has been voluntarily reassigned. After talking to her, Juliet discovers that Sandy is relieved about the move because she feels that someone is watching her closely in her current position. In Mechanical, Martha tells Juliet about two mysterious aspects of the silo structure. The first mystery is that a mechanized way of moving up and down is not allowed. The second is the inability to magnify past a certain point. Unable to answer these questions, Martha tells Juliet that she wants her to quit as sheriff since she is in over her head. However, Juliet believes she has earned Bernard's confidence and plans to use it to discover what happened to George. With the candy dispenser serving as her bait, Juliet and Billings head to Doug's apartment, where she has already planted evidence implicating Doug in George's murder. It doesn't take long for Billings to discover the hidden candy dispenser. After having kept the candy toy for a long time, Juliet is reminded by Billings that possessing relics, forbidden items from before the silo, for more than 12 hours without reporting them is against the law. However, Juliet seems undeterred by this warning. With the relic in her possession, Juliet meets with Judge Meadows and successfully persuades her to launch an investigation into the forbidden items, and with it, George's death. Billings cautions Juliet that now that she's officially involved in the investigation, Judicial will closely monitor her every move. As they investigate around the silo, they encounter Regina Jackson, a woman claiming to be George's ex-girlfriend. Regina's calm reaction to George's death raises suspicion in both Juliet and Billings. Regina reveals that George, a self-centered man, joined Mechanical to seek answers to big questions. Before Juliet leaves, Regina stops her and asks if she believes George truly loved her. Angry about the reality check, Juliet storms out. Later, Juliet meets Bernard and Sims, who confront her about the candy dispenser found in Doug's apartment, pointing out that it wasn't present during their initial search. While Sims suspects someone tampered with the scene, Bernard persuades him otherwise. That evening, Juliet contemplates abandoning both her job and the investigation into George's death, after realizing he may have only been using her for information. Seeking comfort, she confides in Martha over the walkie-talkie. However, Martha encourages her to stay the course and see things through. The following day, Regina warns Juliet that Judicial has been keeping a close watch on her. She recalls a troubling incident in which someone followed her home, demanding the names of all relic merchants. Fearing for her family's safety, she ultimately revealed George as one of them. Regina then discloses that she traded George's hard disk for another highly dangerous relic, a book titled Amazing Adventures in Georgia, which she hands over to Juliet. Returning to her apartment, Juliet is taken aback as she flips through the pages of the book. Unaware of the hidden surveillance, two individuals secretly watch her through a concealed camera, with one promptly reporting their discovery to their superior. Meanwhile, in the medical ward, Gloria, the fertility expert, briefly enjoys an imagined escape to the beach before being abruptly jolted back to the harsh reality of her room, where she is sedated once again. While examining the book she received from Regina, Juliet comes across signatures from Gloria and several others. Determined to uncover the truth, she seeks out Gloria, only to find her heavily medicated and unable to communicate. Juliet soon learns that only Judge Meadows has the power to halt Gloria's treatment. Desperate for answers, Juliet confronts Meadows directly. To her surprise, the judge appears weak and fearful, implying that she is merely carrying out orders rather than acting on her own accord. However, despite Juliet's persistence, Meadows refuses to reveal any details about the individuals involved, leaving Juliet with more questions than answers. Unaware of the truth, Juliet remains oblivious to the fact that Sims is the secret force controlling the surveillance system, monitoring everyone through strategically placed cameras hidden behind mirrors. Completely in the dark about his watchful eyes, she feels lost and constantly a step behind. Determined to uncover the truth, she turns to her father, Dr. Pete Nichols, who has privileged access to the medical division and may hold the key to finding the answers she seeks. Breaking the law and facing serious repercussions, Pete agrees to temporarily release Gloria so that Juliet can question her once the effects of the medication wear off. However, Juliet's trust in her father falters when Gloria accuses him of interfering with her ability to conceive in the past. Feeling both confused and suspicious, Juliet distances herself from her father, giving Gloria the space she needs to calm down and divulge the secrets she knows about the silo.